Hey folks, I'm Lucy with Ballyhoo Creations, and I'm going to show you how to make one of these human-ish puppets. This video tutorial is made for the puppet material kits that I'm selling on Etsy, but you can follow along and watch how they're built and then use your own materials too. Once you see how easy this is, you might get bit by the puppet building bug. These kits are made the same as my YIB, Y-I-B puppet sewing pattern, or if you have an embroidery machine, you can use the YAB, Y-A-B puppet design files. That robo-stitches most parts in the hoop of your embroidery machine, and then you can come back and watch this video for customizing your little puppet friend. I'll link to my Etsy shop down in the description box where you can find all of these patterns and designs. The puppet material kits are a limited edition, but if you're lucky, you might find some of those still in my Etsy shop, especially during the holiday season. This video tutorial is divided into chapters or sections. You can see those at the bottom of the video. When you move backwards or forwards, those will show up, so you can easily navigate to the parts you need. I like to speed up the video on the boring parts like cutting or hand sewing, but if you want to slow things down or speed them up, you'll also find speed controls at the bottom of the screen. When I speed things up, you'll see it up in the upper corner up there. If you're using an embroidery machine to make your puppet, follow the instructions in your design download for the stitching part, and then come back here for the embellishing of your furry puppet. You can either make applique eyes or sew them on later. It's your choice. And of course, if you run into any issues, you can contact me through my website at ballyhoocreations.com for assistance. I also have a Facebook group called Ballyhoo Inspiration and Support, where you can join and get help or just show off what you've made. We would love to see it. That's enough of me blabbering. Let's start making a puppet. Use the tearaway stabilizer that came with your kit to trace the pattern pieces for the head and body part, as well as for the fabric mouth, the brain pillow, and the two arms. Don't use a Sharpie like I'm using here. I'm using that so it will show up clearly in the video, but the ink from permanent markers can seep onto your fabric and stain them, so use a fabric-safe marker for this step. You can find those at the sewing stores, or you can use a pencil or a washable marker like a Crayola washable marker. Those work too. Be sure to transfer all the pattern markings to your stabilizer, like the arrows and the stop points. You can put both arms on one piece of stabilizer. I feel like that makes the sewing easier. And when you're done, you should have 4 pattern pieces traced onto the stabilizer. Lay each pattern on top of your fabric pieces, which should be stacked with right sides together, and then pin all 3 layers to create these fabric sandwiches. Now we're ready to stitch. Your instructions document has tips on sewing, such as the stitch length setting for each piece, so refer to that. That can make the sewing much easier if you follow those settings. And then you just sew directly on the lines you traced. Don't worry if it's not perfectly on the line. The stabilizer will help make the sewing easier. And when you're stitching the hands, just go slowly and let the machine do all the pulling while your hands just steer the fabric. And here's what they'll look like after everything is stitched. I'll give you a close-up look on some of these. You can see I didn't follow the fingers exactly, but on the finished puppet hand, that's going to be perfectly fine. On the fabric mouth, you just make a circle and there's no opening there. The brain does have an opening in the back. There's the back side of it. And for the puppet head and body, you can see that I stopped sewing right there at the fold line. I'll show you the back of that in a minute. I also went and extended mine about 1 inch at the bottom. Just to make it longer, you could go even longer than that. And you can see how it's open there around the mouth. Now you can cut out each piece. Your instructions have suggestions for how much seam allowance to leave for each piece. And fleece doesn't unravel, so we've got a safety net there. When you're cutting around the fingers, you want to cut close to the stitches, but don't cut into your seams. Cut as close to the seam between each finger as you can. Using small scissors might be easier for this. and sharp scissors work much better than dull ones. Cut out the wedge for your mouth using the line you traced from your pattern. Do not cut the fold right there at the top. That's very important. Leave that fold intact. And then you just want to be sure you've transferred all your pattern markings. Here's a trick for getting matching eye marks or arm placement marks. Put a pin on the mark so it goes through both layers of fabric. Then open them up and use your fabric safe marker where the pin is to mark both sides of the fabric. Once your pieces are cut out and marked, you can gently tear away the stabilizer from your seams. It should pull away cleanly. Before you remove the stabilizer from the arms, you can poke a hole for the arm joint on one side of the fabric only. It's easier to do this now while you can still see the placement marks on the inside of the arms. And then remove the stabilizer. This takes a bit of patience, but it's okay if some bits of that stabilizer are left behind. It's going to be inside, you'll never see it. To turn the fingers, I suggest using either hemostats or the Easy Point and Turner tool. Both will work for these small fingers. You can try using a chopstick if you're skilled with that, but these tools are my favorites for turning small parts. I don't think I could do this with a chopstick. Fleece can be slippery, so if you moisten your hand a little bit, that will give you a better grip so that you can turn these more easily. The brain pillow is simple. Just remove the stabilizer and turn it right side out. And for the mouth, you should have 2 marks on the sides, and you want to cut 1 layer of fabric. Just pull them apart and cut 1 layer all the way across between those marks. That opens it up so you can turn that mouth right side out. We have our mouth parts here with the fabric mouth, the rubber mouth plate, and the tongue. You cut the rubber circle in half and join them back together with a 1/4 inch space between them. You can either use waterproof medical tape or glue a scrap of fabric to both sides, both halves, to act like a hinge. I'm showing both of these methods, one on each side, but you only have to do one. Pick either the tape or the gluing the fabric, whichever you prefer. And then we glue the rubber side of that flappy mouth plate to the uncut side of the fabric mouth. It's harder to explain, but makes sense when you actually watch it. I'm using fabric hot glue for this, but you could also use Fabri-Tac brand glue. I'm applying my glue to the wrong side of the fabric where you can see the seams, and then glue that rubber down, and then I flip the half circle over so that it's now right side out, the way it should be. Glue the tongue in place if you want one, and now we have our mouth plate. Use pins or clips to dry fit the mouth plate into the puppet's mouth opening, lining up the sides and the centers. We're going to use a ladder stitch to attach the mouth plate to the puppet's head. I've got about 18 inches of thread, and it's doubled and knotted. That will get you through half of the mouth. I've already sewn the top half, now I'll do the bottom half. Start your seam on the side, on the inside corner of the head. Pass your needle and thread through the loop at the end to secure your knot, and then begin the ladder stitch. You just take 1/8 to 1/4 inch stitch each time, one on the black mouth, then on the puppet's lip area. Each time you want the thread to go straight across from one side to the other so it would look like railroad tracks, until you pull the thread tight and then it's invisible. You can roll the edges to the inside or use your needle to push them so that the seam is invisible. If you need a seam gauge, you can use a marker with your ruler and put little marks on your thumb or your thumbnail to make sure that you're getting the right stitch length. I'm doing about 1/4 inch here. We'll just speed through the rest of this. When you get to the opposite corner from where you started, tie a surface knot. You just take a small stitch in a hidden area, but don't pull the thread taut yet. Instead, pass your needle through the first loop, and you see that created a second loop? Now pass your needle through the second loop. And then when you carefully tighten that thread, the knot will sink down to the surface where you can easily hide it. The brain pillow is stretchy on one side, and we're going to stuff it so that stretchy side expands. You can use fabric scraps if you want to, but polyester fiberfill is better if you want your puppet to be machine washable. The fiberfill dries much faster than fabric scraps, but if you only have fabric scraps, that's fine too. Stuff the brain pillow until it's about 3 inches tall, and then fit the brain into your puppet's head until you like the shape of it. You can keep taking it out and restuffing it if you need to. When you're happy with the stuffing, tuck in that turning tab and stitch or glue the brain pillow closed. Then put it inside the puppet head. The non-stretch fabric will sit on your hand, and the pillow gets sewn into the head when you add the eyes and nose. Your kit comes with fabric-covered button eyes and some pupil stickers. Attach the buttons temporarily by sewing them on the placement marks. You can add the pupil stickers to get a feel for how the puppet will look, and move the eyes if you want to. Once you like the eye placement, stitch each button to the head using a ladder stitch. You should use your white thread from your kit for this step, but I'm using black thread so you can see the stitches for this example. You take a small stitch from the side of the button, then a small stitch on the head, and continue this until you've gone all the way around. This is the ladder stitch just like we used on the mouth. This will secure the eyes to the head and ensures they don't rotate later on. So do that for both eyes. You can use your needle to place the felt stickers for the pupils. You want them to be a bit cross-eyed, which will help the puppet make eye contact. Play around with this step and look at the eyes and pupils from different angles to make sure they're even. The adhesive on the pupils is temporary, so once you're happy with them, they should be permanently glued. Be very careful with the glue here and use a toothpick or a pen to apply the glue if you need to. Now that we've spent time getting the perfect placement, we don't want to move them, so I'm using a different puppet to show how you can lift half the pupil and apply glue. Then glue down the other half. And this way, you can glue them where you already had them and not have to take them off and move them. For the eyelids, you fold that oval in half and glue it if you want to, and then glue or stitch the eyelid over the top part of the eye. If you have it down too far, they're going to look really sleepy. You can also leave off the eyelids, or you can wrap the excess eyelid fabric to the back of the button before the eyes are stitched on, so you have options. But gluing them is the fastest way. Your kit has a few options for the nose fabric. You can use a scrap of your fleece or use a stretchy colored fabric for the nose. You can also cut the nose circle smaller or larger than the pattern. Using your needle and strong thread, make running stitches all around the circle about a 1/4 inch from the edge. And then pull the thread to make a cup shape and add some stuffing in the nose. Pull the threads to close up the nose and make a few stitches across the back to hold it closed, then tie a knot. I was trying to decide on a nose and where to put it. Play around with your character. I'll go with the orange one. Then you can ladder stitch the nose all the way around to secure it to the face. People like to honk or pull on puppet noses, so it's important that it's on there tight. Tie a knot and bury the thread by taking a long stitch into the head and cutting the thread at the surface so it disappears inside. Your kit comes with joints to attach the arms. You can use those or you can just sew the arms to the body. It's your choice. I'll show you how to use the joints. Be sure the hole in the arm and body are big enough to push the joint stem through. You want the stem to come out from the body and go into the arm. Then the plastic washer goes into the arm and will snap onto the stem. Be sure your arms are positioned with the thumbs pointing up before you attach the arms with joints, because once a joint locks, it stays locked. I'll also mention with these plastic joints, the side width of the washer with the little divot or indentation is the side that faces the stem. Otherwise, they're really hard to lock together. You also have these foam noodles in your kit, which make it quick to stuff the arms and leave a bend at the elbow. Remove the wire from a noodle and cut the noodle in half. You can also cut a slit to go over the joint stem. And then put the foam into the arms and coax that cut in the noodle over the joint stem. Leave some space between the two foam halves for the elbow to bend. Make sure the plastic tube opening is at the hand side of the seam opening and that the open end of the tube is pointing down where the arm rod will be inserted. The hand rod assembly can be stitched or glued into one or both hands. You can repeat this process on the second arm or insert the foam noodle that still has wire in it to make the arm pose without an arm rod. The fleece is thick enough that the hands shouldn't require stuffing, so you can close the seams with either the ladder stitch or with some glue. I'm using a thin bead of hot glue here. Just be sure no glue gets into the tubing. For the wig, it's important that the fur is pointing down like the arrow shown on your pattern piece. Fold your faux fur in half and line up the wig pattern on the fold. Then trace the seam and cut lines on the back of the fur for both halves of the fur. My pink lines don't show too well on camera, but I can see them when I sew or cut, and that's what's important. Take that to the sewing machine and stitch the seam as shown on the pattern. Then cut the fur on the marked lines. When you cut long fur like this, just cut the backing and not the fur itself. I like to use small scissors and make small snips of the backing to ensure I'm not cutting the hair. And then pull away any stray hairs that were cut. There's always going to be some. Hem the edges of the wig by either stitching or gluing 1/4 inch all the way around the edge. Fit the wig onto your puppet head and decide where you want it to sit. Then either glue or stitch the wig onto the head. Play around with the faux fur and create a character you love. You can take excess fur and make a bun or a ponytail. You can take 2 small scraps with the fur going in opposite directions to create a mustache. Maybe some bushy eyebrows. Hem the edges on a triangle of fur to make a beard or a goatee. I like that one. Or skip the wig altogether. Maybe a goatee and eyebrows. Or a seriously receding hairline. It's your puppet. Create a character as unique as you are. If you want to make your puppet look more feminine, you can glue false eyelashes under the eyelids. I'm using a pin to push them into place. Your kit may have come with lashes, or you can get them anywhere cosmetics are sold. Even the dollar store carries them. You can also section the faux fur hair and put ponytails in it, or add ribbons or bows or hair barrettes. That'll all make the puppet look more feminine. Then just put the t-shirt on your puppet. The shirts seem big, but after they shrink, they'll be a better fit. Roll up the sleeves and you'll see the t-shirt seems to be just the right size. When you wear your puppet, try to get your fingers into the mouth pocket for a more comfortable fit, and attach the arm rods to make hand gestures. Now it's time to play around and see what kind of personality comes out of your puppet. These little guys are so charming and fun to experiment with. If you're new to puppetry, check out YouTube for tons of videos that teach how to lip sync or move a hand and rod puppet like this one. I hope you found this video tutorial helpful for assembling your puppet kit from Ballyhoo Creations. I only make a few puppet kits each year, and a lot of love and care goes into each one. If you have any questions or issues while making your puppet, you can contact me through my website at ballyhoocreations.com, and I'll be happy to help. Happy stitching!